In this video, we'll take a look at deploying the Big IP through the Azure Marketplace. From our portal, we're going to go to New and select our Marketplace offering. And all of our F5 offerings are under Security and Identity. We'll expand out and view all the offerings. And you will notice that there's actually several F5 Marketplace images available. That's really designed for utility billing, which is coming down the road. But to start with, initially, we'll choose the F5 Big IP Best offering. We're going to click on that, and it'll come up to our initial deployment screen, which will provide information about your upcoming deployment. We'll choose how we want to deploy. You'll notice for Big IP, it's only ARM available. We're going to give a name for our image, our Big IP VM. We have a choice here to use SSH keys for authentication or password credentials. We're going to use credentials, X-user, and a password. I'm going to create a new resource group. We're going to leave it at West US, and we'll select OK. This brings us up to our instance screen. Now, we can choose some of the instances that are recommended here. You notice they recommend A7 and A8 for our best offering. But we're going to go ahead and click on View All, and you'll notice that we can actually choose from essentially all the various instance levels that are available through Azure. I kind of prefer to use the A3 and A4 standard. So I'm going to go ahead and select A3, which is 7 gigs of RAM, 4 cores. We'll select that. That'll bring up our next screen for our storage. We're going to go to storage. We're going to create a new storage account with this. And real important, when you create a storage account or use storage for your Big IP, you need to disable diagnostics. Currently, diagnostics are not supported on a Linux machine such as Big IP. So we'll disable there. We're going to select or use the default virtual network settings, subnet, public IP address. We're going to our network security group. A network security group more or less is a layer 3, layer 4 firewall feature. And by default here, we actually have SSH already enabled, access in via SSH. We're going to go ahead and add 2 more rules to our network security group, one for management. So we're going to set up and allow a management port to come in. And in this case, I'm going to choose 16443 as my destination. And we use asterisk or allow all for the source. And that's set for allow. I'm going to go ahead and add one more, and this will be for HTTPS. This will be our good old standard port 443 on TCP. So once again, I'm going to choose TCP. Destination is going to be everybody, source is everybody. Destination will be 443. Allow, click OK. And there are my 3 rules. I'll select OK to continue on. And once again, real important for Big IP, I'm going to disable monitoring. Monitoring does not work on the Linux-based machines such as the Big IP. And availability set, I could set up an availability set, but seeing I'm only doing one Big IP, I'm just going to bypass that currently. Provides a summary of all our settings we've just entered, all our configuration options. We'll review that real quick. Then we'll select OK. And we'll get one final blade, which shows essentially the licensing agreement. In this case, this is BYOL, so you'll notice that the cost to F5 is 0 because we're going to purchase our license outside of outside of Azure. And then it shows you what your average cost will be for the actual instance size of standard A3. We select deploy, and there we go. We're going to watch this. This will deploy. Typically, the marketplace deployments take about, I'd say, 5, 7, at the longest, maybe 10 minutes to completely deploy. A lot of that time is taken up with the Big IP itself being booted up and initially configured. So now we'll go look at the resource groups, and we'll see that new resource group we created, Big IP-ARM. And these are all the items that are being created. And you'll notice it's not just the Big IP itself, which actually hasn't even shown up yet, but all the related objects that are associated with that. So we have, for example, we have a public IP address. We have a network interface. We have our network security group. We also have a virtual network. We have our storage container that was created to store the Big IP's VHD. And then, of course, the Big IP itself, the VM. And as you notice here, we click on the Big IP, and we'll see that it's still creating. You can see that it's associated a public IP address to it and all the other various settings. So now at this point, we basically just wait for the deployment to finish and for the big IP to go to a state of running. And as you can see here, it's now at a state of running through the magic of video editing. So it's running. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up and we're going to access the big IP's GUI interface through that IP address that was provided to us, that public address. I'm going to connect into it. First thing I need to do is I need to provide a license key. So I'm going to provide my license key that I already had created. Choose next. I'm going to accept the license agreement. I mean, all that's going on right now is everything that you basically do on a big IP, whether it's on premise, whether it's in Azure, what have you. Okay, so we accepted it. We added our license. We're now going to go ahead and provision our modules. In this case, I'm provisioning APM and ASM. You'll notice that LTM is provisioned by default. Select Next. Accept that, and that'll finish its provisioning process. After this is done, all we need to do is just do the remaining standard configurations for the big IP. That's basically giving it an FQDN, password, the administration account, and then we just do our normal deployments. Pretty straightforward.